Tonight on KATU, crime in Oregon is decreasing, but extreme violence amongst our youth is trending in the wrong direction.
The types of crimes, such as homicide and juveniles that are participating in such crime, that has increased.
A trend with devastating impacts.
When you know someone was killed in a really cruel, violent way, it is damaging.
To the families who have lost loved ones.
I think I'll never get over it.
And the youth growing up behind bars.
Being with your family, just being around them, being able to see them grow up, being there for them, holidays, birthdays, things like that. Now I don't have that anymore.
What's driving the increase?
Many youth don't have health care. Many youth are hungry. Many youth are running around the streets unsupervised.
We talked to dozens of experts and people in the field, from correction officers, treatment providers, judges, and victims to the youth serving time. We toured multiple juvenile prisons, explored their education and career programs, as well as treatment centers and mentorship programs across the state. Tonight, only on KATU News, The Cost of Redemption, a deep dive into youth violence and incarceration in Oregon. It's a complex and nuanced issue, decades in the making, and I'd be lying if I told you I found a solution or that I can single out the root of the problem. But over the next half hour, I'll show you how much the violence has increased, some of what could be driving it, and how we got to where we are. You'll learn about the recent policy changes and shifts in the way Oregon handles youth who commit crimes. You'll also hear from the experts, families of victims, formerly incarcerated youth, and youth themselves about what they believe is needed to turn the tide.
It's been lonely, it was just the two of us.
Not a single day has gone by over the past 30 years in which Ellen Pelker has not imagined what her life would be like if her daughter Mariah had never met James Anderson.
I would have had a grandchild who now probably would have a child of their own.
17-year-old Mariah was 3 months pregnant at the time of her murder. Anderson, her convicted killer, was the same age. Mariah was missing for a month before her body was found.
It was really, really devastating. You just feel like you don't even want to live anymore, when that happens.
A devastation more Oregon families are experiencing today.
We've seen really some real bad examples and a lot of shootings and some violent crimes.
Multnomah County District Attorney Nathan Vasquez has worked as a prosecutor in the county for 24 years. He tells me this year alone, 8 juveniles have been charged in 5 different homicide cases.
It's something that I believe that this community really needs to be focused on and pay attention to, because again, a lot of those crimes are committed against children.
This isn't something just happening in Multnomah County either. While the overall number of youth charged with a crime in Oregon is down, data from the Oregon Youth Authority shows the number of young people charged with violent crimes, like assault and homicide, is on the rise. From 2016 to 2024, the number of youth charged with felony assaults nearly doubled from 367 to 606. Youth charged with homicides increased 60% from 20 to 32. Felony assault charges increased the most in kids 12 and under. So what is driving this, and how can we do better? We visited youth correctional facilities, treatment centers, and mentorship programs across Oregon, interviewing over 30 people, from experts to those working in the field, judges, and the kids growing up behind bars, to try and answer those complex questions. Many pointed to the impacts of social media, the pandemic, and most of all, a lack of resources.
We just have created kind of a big soup of everything that is not going to help kids and throwing them out into it.
Neil Davies is the director of programs at Parrot Creek. The Youth Treatment Center in Oregon City was founded in 1968. For 32 years, Davies has walked its halls. He believes a lack of connection is pushing kids down the wrong path.
We're not driving people towards connection, we're driving them further away. Most adults are spending most of their time looking at a phone or the TV or computer screen. Most youth are spending time looking at a phone or TV and computer screen and not connecting with their environment and not connecting with the people in their environment.
Then came 2020.
What you saw during the pandemic is there's a lot of disconnection.
Mike Tassine is the director of the Oregon Youth Authority. He was appointed by Governor Tina Kotek in August. For the past 2 decades, Tassine has worked at the intersection of youth behavioral health and corrections. He started as a substance use counselor in Colorado before becoming a probation officer, eventually taking on leadership roles in both sectors. Tassine says the escalation in youth violence is likely connected to the 2 years society shut down and at-risk youth went without intervention.
Young people weren't able to engage with their peers or with other adults or mentors or coaches that they normally would. And so I think disconnection really amplifies any kind of behavioral health issue.
All of the experts I spoke to say a lack of access to resources plays probably the biggest role in the alarming trend. Oregon is a case study for that theory. According to the Sentencing Project, the state has the nation's 5th highest rate of youth incarceration. In 2024, Mental Health America ranked Oregon 3rd to last in the nation for the percentage of youth experiencing mental health issues in comparison to services provided. While correlation does not equal causation, data about youth behind bars in Oregon suggests the two issues are likely closely linked. Oregon Youth Authority reports show 62% of incarcerated youth have a mental health diagnosis, and 71% have a substance use disorder.
Young adolescence is hard enough anyway. You add brain development, you add drugs, you add trauma, you have a brain that has a really hard time processing.
Mike Hill is a substance use treatment coordinator for the Oregon Youth Authority. He's worked for the agency for almost 18 years. Hill says substance use is often what drives the criminal behavior.
A large amount of time is either around the use of substance use, pursuing of money to purchase drugs, drug deals gone bad, all of the above, gang involvement.
According to a report from the National Center for Drug Abuse Statistics, teens in Oregon are roughly 14% more likely to have used drugs in the last month than the average American teen. The most recent data available from the Oregon Health Authority shows that at least 4% of teens who sought substance use help from 2016 to 2020 didn't get it. There's a lack of more recent data depicting youth treatment shortages. Youth and providers in OYA facilities say it's a big problem. Oregon law keeps juvenile offenders anonymous, so the names mentioned below are aliases.
This place has helped me understand that there's more to life than drugs and gangs.
Destiny is 22 and has been at Oaks Creek for 4 years.
I feel like a lot of people have the conception that youth who are incarcerated are just no good, and that they are going to get out and reoffend. A lot of us have a past, and that past, yes, led us to where we are today, but we're still trying to strive and do better for ourselves.
She says getting clean and becoming a licensed esthetician has put her on a path to success when she's released. Linda and Zoe are on that same path.
My story was I had a lack of parenting and discipline, and I couldn't go to school a lot because I was playing those roles to my siblings, to my younger siblings.
Linda says in high school she fell in with the wrong crowd. Like Destiny, she's also gone through substance use treatment at Oaks Creek. So did Zoe.
What kind of resources do you think would have prevented you from ending up here?
I feel like just more substance use treatment is what I needed.
Did you look for it when you were out? To be someone that was caring for you or whatever?
We looked for it, but there wasn't a lot of places that I could go to for the amount of time that I needed.
I heard similar stories about lack of mental health and substance use help from youth at McLaren, including Andrew.
What do you think were the circumstances that brought you here?
Not being aware of my mental health, not, dealing with my mental health appropriately, and not having any healthy ways to vent.
Or teens like Fitzgerald. He was sent by OIA to Pear Creek.
It was a lot of anger towards people in my life. It was just built up and then kind of just came out all at the same time.
Youth incarceration reforms in Oregon have reduced the number of kids behind bars, especially those in state facilities like Oaks Creek and McLaren. Unless crimes are so severe that they require more secure facilities, judges aim to keep youth near locations where they live. But Hill says in some cases, youth who don't need to be at OYA end up there because they keep committing less serious crimes because of mental health or substance use.
It sounds sad that you have to be arrested in order to get the help you need, and that's kind of where we're at for a lot of our young people.
Still, because of recent juvenile justice reforms, most minors at OYA have committed very serious offenses.
He hit my brother many, many times in the head with a rock. He crushed his skull.
Coming up after the break.
And when it comes to young people and children, they have a great capacity to change.
The reasons for the reform and the changes some say are needed.
I've heard, essentially judges say, the law is of such a nature that it makes it impossible for me to rule otherwise.
The Cost of Redemption continues after the break.
Who were these kids and why were they out looking to kill a homeless man?
On October 3rd, 2018, 56-year-old Ovid Neal was killed while sleeping in a parking garage in downtown Eugene. 16-year-old Jonathan Kirkpatrick beat him to death with a rock while 15-year-old Jessica Simmons stood watch. Ovid's sister, Amanda Neal Roth, struggles to cope not just with the grief, but with what happened in his final moments.
It's not the same when someone dies a natural death. My mom passed away, and it's not the same when you know someone was killed in a really cruel, violent way. It is damaging. And I think I'll never get over it.
Roth says her brother was the smart one in the family.
He was accomplished in music, but he also had a degree from Harvard Divinity School. He studied world religions at Harvard.
In grad school, he began experiencing severe mental health issues. After living with family for many years, Amanda says Ovid moved to Oregon and went off his meds, joining a growing number of individuals sleeping on the streets.
We had a lot of arguments about his situation, but the one thing I can say is that we loved each other very much. We spoke a week before he was killed, and it was a very touching conversation because he kind of made a speech about how much he felt I had helped him.
Kirkpatrick and Simmons admitted to the killing and pleaded guilty in juvenile court. Both are scheduled for release by the time they turn 25, perhaps sooner. That's because their case was playing out while Oregon was shaking up the way it handles juvenile charges for crimes like rape and murder.
The community began to have a lot of concerns about the impact of Measure 11 as it applied to young people.
Amy Holmes-Hain is the lead juvenile justice judge in Multnomah County. She was elected to the bench in 2013. Before that, she served as a prosecutor in the county and witnessed the tough on crime push in the 90s firsthand.
We were seeing rising crime rates across the country, including serious juvenile crime, guns, drugs, and there was a lot of public alarm about safety when it came to young people, and there were a lot of criticisms of the extent to which the juvenile justice system was well suited to handle very serious young people.
In 1994, Oregonians voted ballot Measure 11 into law.
Measure 11 required that if a young person, 15 years of age or older, commits a serious person felony, so a serious offense against a person at a felony level, they're required to be charged in adult court right out of the gate.
In 2020, right as Kirkpatrick and Simmons were on trial, the pendulum shifted. New research started to shed light on the ability of adolescents' brains to quickly change, along with the impact of drugs and alcohol on maturity, brain development, and the ability to make rational decisions. Advocates started pushing for changes to minimum sentencing guidelines for youth.
We need to reevaluate the law we passed before we knew this information about youth brain development.
They pointed to statistics showing youth who entered adult prisons were more likely to reoffend than youth who stayed at OYA. Racial justice was also a big component.
It's not a matter of opinion that racial and ethnic disparities exist in Oregon's juvenile justice and criminal justice system.
Despite pushback from victims and victim advocates, Senate Bill 1008 received widespread support and was signed into law. It took effect in 2020 and made it extremely rare for minors to be sentenced in adult court.
There's still the option for a court in the juvenile court to conduct a hearing that would result in the transfer of a youth to adult court.
It's a waiver that's rarely granted.
I've heard, essentially judges say, the law is of such a nature that it makes it impossible for me to rule otherwise.
As of August 2025, Oregon Judicial Department data shows only 13 cases have been waived to adult court since the law passed. Most of those waivers came from plea deals, allowing a shorter adult prison sentence. In cases without waivers, OIA cannot hold youth past age 25.
The law presumes that by that time, everything that can be done for that young person has been done, so they will not be facing further incarceration or further supervision by the juvenile court after age 25.
For Kirkpatrick and Simmons, those dates are coming up in the next couple of years. OIA could find they're sufficiently rehabilitated sooner. Court documents in the case revealed both Kirkpatrick and Simmons had traumatic childhoods and used substances. Neil Roth worries without being waived to adult court, their shorter sentences could mean they won't be fully rehabilitated. She cited multiple pending lawsuits against OIA from former youth accusing the agency and some of its former staff members of widespread sexual abuse. Though the alleged abuse would have occurred over a decade ago, Neil Roth worries the agency still has a culture problem.
How can we expect these kids to turn around when they're victims in the institution that's supposed to be helping them?
The lawsuits name at least 16 different defendants.
After news of the lawsuits hit the headlines, Oregon Department of Corrections audited OIA's Professional Standards Office and found hundreds of abuse complaints against staff were backlogged and had not been investigated. OIA's director was fired, and Tassine was appointed to fill his shoes. He says the agency is working to regain trust.
We've taken responsibility, we are changing our behavior, and now we need to be consistent and give it time.
When you say you've taken accountability, and I know you're new to this role,
Sure.
but can you explain what you mean by that? How has OIA taken accountability?
I think OIA has taken accountability in acknowledging the errors, the systems that were broken, where it allowed our Professional Standards Office not to do their job, owning that publicly, and then taking action and communicating on a weekly basis the progress that's been made.
Neil Roth says that isn't enough.
It's a tragic law. It needs incredible improvement if it's going to remain the law. Measure 11 was much better at protecting the public and protecting vulnerable people.
District Attorney Vasquez agrees.
I think this is an area that Oregon really needs to address, and I'm hopeful that the community as a whole and our state legislatures will take a hard look at this and kind of restore a little bit of balance. I'm not looking for a return to the old way. What I'm looking for is a reasonable approach.
Vasquez wants to see looser standards for waivers to adult court, but experts and advocates I talk to say longer sentences do not equal rehabilitation.
We know that engaging with youth in a proactive way and teaching them skills is the key, that they don't recidivate and they don't come back.
Troy Britting has been superintendent of McLaren for a year. He's worked for OIA since 2011.
It's not about, putting them in facilities for a long period of time. It's not about how much we can punish them for whatever they've committed.
Instead, he says it's about providing opportunities for education, opportunities that some youth at OIA tell us they have found.
Before, like in high school, I wanted to be a civil attorney, and now I'm leaning towards juvenile justice.
Coming up after the break, the programs we toured and what youth told us could prevent more violence and incarceration. The Cost of Redemption returns after the break. We've talked about what isn't working. Now, let's talk about what research shows does work. Data from the RAND Corporation shows people who participate in education programs while incarcerated are 43% less likely to reoffend when released. At each OIA facility we visited, we toured high school and college programs, as well as technical programs offering barber and nail tech licenses, construction and mechanic workshops, gardening, and even dog training and boarding facilities. The youth we spoke to described a renewed sense of direction thanks to these programs.
The amount of adaptability that I see in the dogs and the amount of change that I see in them as we work with them, I also reflect can be done with myself.
We also toured Parrot Creek, a youth treatment facility that OIA contracts with, and talked to Director Simon Fulford about its success rates.
Our last recidivism rate that we received from OIA was that 88% of our youth did not reoffend based on their data, which was about twice as good as the statewide average.
Nestled amongst dozens of acres of old-growth forest, Parrot Creek's newly renovated facility boasts large windows with heaps of natural light, cush furniture, yoga decks, gyms, and an art therapist in residence.
The message we're sending to the youth is that you're valued and you're important, and that you merit being in a facility that's going to nurture you. And in return, though, is when you go forward into the community, you know, you should be nurturing the same in our communities.
When it comes to preventing incarceration, youth at OYA tell me treatment and mental health are top of mind. But a big one is also guidance.
Stuff that brought me here is like me making bad decisions and being impulsive and not thinking about my actions. And what could have helped me was having a nice mentor around.
It's something Talilo Marfil knows a thing or two about.
I didn't find love at home. I found a lot of pain there, so I went into where I could find it, and even though, you know, the groups that I was kicking it with were doing bad things and things that can get us caught up or get me caught up in jail, I found it as a way of being free and accepted.
Marfil spent time in juvenile detention centers before eventually being sentenced to 2 years in adult prison for robbery. Since his release, he's turned his life around, becoming an accomplished rapper, now helping to coordinate mentorships for youth through his nonprofit Ascending Flow.
We mainly focus on artistic expression as a way to connect with youth, to help them express their emotions.
Hip Hop Labs is the recording and beat-making studio where Marfil and his colleagues host weekly workshops for youth like CJ Tarver.
I'm talking about the drop. This program has definitely helped me get from a phase where I didn't think I was going anywhere, where I was kind of stuck. I didn't know what road to really take to find my space, my community of people who not only created it, but created it in a professional manner.
Marfil says programs like this could have prevented his incarceration.
And I think mentorship is like the only solution to helping a youth that is disconnected, that comes from an abusive household, to help prevent them from either going into the system or helping them when they get out have a place to kind of heal and get some guidance.
Despite an uptick in youth mentorships over the last 30 years, that progress has been trending downward in more recent years. Thank you for joining us tonight. If you want to help change that trend in Oregon, head to our website and click the Cost of Redemption for a list of volunteer opportunities. Have a good night.